Whether we are there or not, ITSP Magazine still gets the best stories. Plenty of conferences and events spark our curiosity and allow us to start conversations with some of the world's brightest minds. In person or virtually, Sean Martin and Marco Ciappelli go on location and sit down with them at the intersection of technology, cybersecurity, and society. Together, we discover what the synergy of these three elements means for the future of humanity.
Marco.
Sean, are we there yet?
We're nearly there, and we have this really cool story. We get the best stories, I have to say.
I know. There's a lot of
it's
cool
nothing to do
stories.
with us. It's the people that come on have the best stories, and I'm
think
grateful.
we're good listener. We're good listener and maybe good amplifier too. So yeah, it's always I have learned most of the things that I know about cybersecurity doing podcasts with you or by myself. As I don't have a background in cybersecurity, but really I learn always so much having this conversation, and I'm very, very excited for this one.
And there's a number of facets to cover when we start looking at technology and business and protecting it and its data and the people behind that data and everything else. And it starts with access and maintaining who can do what, not just on-prem, but in the cloud. And we're going to talk a bit about that today with our good friend, Art Poghosyan. How are you, Art?
Great, Sean. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today.
Yeah, it's good to see you. And we go back a while. I think we did some stuff in Pasadena, some events, which were really fun. And we got to meet you there. And just good community. And you're a super cool dude. And I'm thrilled to have you on. So this is part of our event coverage, part of Black Hat coverage that we're doing. And you're going to be in Las Vegas for a couple days, and we wanted to catch up with you. We're going to do a video recording on location with you there to dig deeper into some of the stuff that you do at Britive. But we wanted to kind of kick it off with what we call the origin story. Why was Britive formed? What was the catalyst behind it? What's your vision and your mission? That kind of stuff. And let's first start with you, Art. You've done a few things yourself over the past year. So what led you to Britive to start off?
Yeah, this is always a fun story. And every time I tell this story, it seems like I remember something that I didn't remember before. So hopefully something that comes out this time that the world hasn't heard yet. But since we go backward, I want to say probably 12, 13 years. And the company that I had started then was different one called Advanced Technology Solutions, identity and access management technology solutions company. And before that, I was with Big Four, E&Y. Been in the identity space quite a long time. Turns out almost 24, 23 years at least. In
its many shapes and forms, the identity space. Yeah,
it's been very exciting to see this industry evolve and where it is today. And part of that origin story is very very closely related to that background in identity space. And our first business, Advanced, was acquired in 2016 by Optiv Security, and it was great. It's very exciting to get to that milestone. What was interesting at the time was also I'd already tasted, let's just say, the entrepreneurial life and success, and I knew I was definitely going to do another one. So
you were bitten by the entrepreneurial bug.
Exactly. Luckily, my co-founders were in the same boat, and so we really were thinking about how the world had changed at that point from the technology evolution standpoint in general, and how emergence of public cloud technologies was changing the businesses so quickly. And for us, it was really kind of thinking a few years down the road, a decade down the road, what was it going to look like, and how would the world respond to these massive, shifts in the tech stack, like going from data center to cloud, cloud infrastructure and data and so on. And the question we're asking ourselves is, security is inevitably going to change. Identity inevitably is going to change. What is it going to look like? How is this going to look? And how is it going to work to be able to support this kind of a very rapid change and transformation? And, we had seen some very early signs, and among our customers, we had some very sort of forward-looking and cutting-edge type of businesses that were already pushing the limits of existing IAM and security products in their cloud environments. I remember this incident, or I remember this episode when a CISO, a very good friend of ours at a healthcare technology company, said, "Hey, in just 1 month, I had 2 access breaches in our AWS environment, API token and a developer's role, developer's access was compromised. Like, this is kind of out of control." And a lot of it was because they weren't using any of the existing products in the market, not because they didn't have it, they had it, they just didn't want to, the cloud teams, that is. So for us, it was like really worth digging more and understanding why is that the case? And came down to the existing products didn't support the way they operate the environment, like infrastructure as code type of processes or DevOps, right? And so it was kind of worth more time and effort. So we dug more, and we really kind of understood that this is a problem that is going to get even bigger and more complex as organizations also mature and expand across new cloud technologies. So it had to be addressed sort of ground up for that kind of a world and that kind of a reality. So we started building. We went right back to the drawing board and started building. And it was a couple of things that was very clear from the beginning that, and it's not such a light bulb kind of a moment anymore, but it was I'm talking about 2016, 2017 at the time, that, hey, there's not going to be a security perimeter in the cloud. So what is going to replace that? How is that security architecture going to incorporate the concept of identity? Because identity is essentially the closest to a perimeter you have. So how do you build something around that, not around the firewall anymore, right? That got us started, and with a lot of great discussions with some experts in the space, some CISOs and CTOs, we eventually built what it is today, Britive's cloud privileged access platform.
Before we dive more into what this company does, I kind of cut a few of bits and pieces of what you said. With all the experience you have, you started more than one company. You guys, both you and Sean, has been in this industry for a long time. And what has changed from the way that you started this company compared with maybe what you thought you had in mind when you started the other one? And where I'm going with this is, nowadays we know that nothing is there forever. The best technology, potentially, eventually, for sure, is going to change. So before, maybe it was like, hey, I invented the printing press. We're good. I'm not thinking the radio, the TV, the internet. So how is your methodology thinking has changed as a company creator?
Mm-hmm. You're not hinting on AI, are you, Marco? Just kidding.
Actually, I swear I didn't think about it.
Yes.
Maybe for the first time in a year, I haven't thought about it. But sure, you can.
But I threw that in just to spice things up a little bit, because that is the constant change, right? It's yet another big disruptor.
Right.
But certainly, I think the first thing that really kind of comes to mind here is, once you've embraced that everything is going to change, it gets a little bit easier from there on. I think you have to prepare yourself. You have to always think about what's going to change down the road. And I think that's what the modern technologies the companies that are building modern technologies needs to embrace, right? I think for us specifically, there's a lot of different sort of forces at play, and including AI is a big catalyst to modernize the security stack and security products, and there's a tremendous amount of opportunity there. I think there's also something that you always have to sort of balance, especially when you're addressing major sort of enterprise organizations' needs. You don't just forget everything that exists and run to the newest and shiniest toy or whatever is in the market, right? You always have to sort of balance the perspective, like what's new, what's sort of that cutting edge and driving the innovation, but what are the big sort of data risks or security risks that need to be protected today, right now, right? So I think that's how we think about where this technology will evolve, where Britive's technology will evolve. Of course, we want to be sort of at the cutting edge of the technology and the innovation, but without forgetting what our customers need today.
Right.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it's a balancing act for sure.
And I want to balance on the other end of the seesaw, kind of going to the origin and the initial founding. Because, I mean, let's look at it. Yes, security companies, technology companies bring stuff to market that's innovative, and hopefully it solves a problem for an organization. But ultimately, at the end of the day, an organization has IT operations, security operations, a team that knows stuff. They know how to tweak and tune and config and manage and respond and all that. And a move to the cloud, we can talk about this in just the pure transformation from on-prem to the cloud. That evolved over time, right? Some things moved as they were. Some things had to be tweaked as they moved. Some things had to be rebuilt. The cloud had to adapt to some of the old things that didn't just naturally move as well. And I think if we look at IAM and privileged access management, I think the same thing could be said for that. So you kind of saw that the existing tools, you even said it, right? They may have covered some things, but not comfortably for the security teams, and definitely not comfortably for guess whom? The cloud teams, right? And the teams building apps and running cloud ops, which is sometimes different than IT ops, and certainly doesn't always mean that security ops is included there as well. So talk to me a little bit about some of the thinking there and how you saw that shift and the need for that. It's probably based on experience, but tell me a little bit about how all that came together for what you ultimately built and continue to build at Britive.
Mm-hmm. No, that's a great question, Sean. I think anyone who's been in the security space, a decade or two, always seen that sort of tension between the security teams and the rest of the organization, the IT teams, the business, and so on, because obviously security wants to secure the environment, which comes at a cost of performance, operation, and so on. I personally felt really kind of conflicted about that. I always thought, like, why is it that way? Why can't it be both? Like, why can't the world be perfect, if you will, right? And that's why I do what I do, right? I have that perfect world in mind. But I mean, to bring it back to sort of the beginning of how we started approaching this problem is, first and foremost, to understand why should there be a conflict? In the world of identity, especially privileged access management, obviously privileges are exclusive and they shouldn't be given to anyone. But could they be given to people who always need it, in a way that it doesn't create friction, in a way that it doesn't get in their way of just doing their everyday jobs, right? And it felt like when we dug in and researched, that was the first thing we really tried to understand. Why does it have to get so difficult or cause friction? Can we eliminate friction? You know what? It was an amazing discovery that it really could be solved, and it's not a very complex solution. The solution is to authorize people who, by their job title and the role in the company, are expected to do certain things that are privileged, right? So authorize them, And instead of making them ask every time to give them access to let's say a domain admin credential involved, can we just let them go and do what they mean to do every day? And things are a little bit different. That was a example of a legacy PAM use case like domain admin. But when you switch to the DevOps world and you switch to infrastructure as code, it's a lot of different things, for infrastructure services, a lot of access credentials and so on. Authorize them properly, validate when they're actually asking for that, and let them go and do what they are supposed to do. And if they need to automate all these things, allow them to use the tooling for that, right? And it was that kind of, all of a sudden seeing how we've found a solution. And it's very simple. You can authorize it. And while you also provide that access, you don't keep it there 24/7 by 365 because nobody uses it.
Yeah.
Like that. So that was a simple kind of this discovery moment that helped us move forward.
Was also, sorry, Sean, it was also a technology that at that point allowed you to do that, or it was just the thinking that was wrong? Sometimes you need the convergence of the idea and the technology available to do so.
Yeah, a super important point, right? Yeah, I'm sure there were a lot of smart people before us thinking along the same lines, but it wasn't done, it wasn't built. And I think if you go back even 10 years, I think it'd be very challenging because you didn't have the maturity of this different technologies, especially cloud native technologies, right? So yes, it's a big factor of a combination of the idea and the timing and the technology maturity to be able to do that.
Well, I always go back to operational maturity as well. And part of that's driven by the technology. So moving from on-prem, and I'll call them static identities, right? You get onboarded when you join, you might change roles. So some things might get tweaked. And then when you leave, hopefully they remove the identity and the access. But fairly contained. But when you move into the DevOps and infrastructure as code, and you're building multiple times a day, and loads of people are involved. Some teams at some time, other teams at other, customers, and all these things come into play. It's a very dynamic world. So clearly, scale is important, but also the speed at which you have to manage this stuff. So you can't put the burden on one team or another to handle the speed at which all these things are coming at them. So you have to take that into account, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. To give you an example from very early stages of our product development, this was even before the product was GA, and a big enterprise company was testing it in the pre-GA stage. In their first use case was we need the API functionality to do everything that we can do from the console, the web UI. Candidly, we built the product as API first, but a lot of what we had actually from the APIs wasn't even documented at the time. So when they started actually doing it from the API and made us document everything and be very diligent about like what we're building and what's available through APIs, made us really think that this is going to be a huge differentiator for a technology like this. Yeah, APIs I think there's a term like APIs are the new UI, right? I think it's very true for our product. Essentially, a lot of that automation and operationalization constraints of products come down to that. How much can be automated for ongoing, maintenance and administration of any product.
Wow, interesting. And you know what is great is that you two are going to get to go deeper in this conversation in a couple of days.
It's hard to stop now, but I will.
Well, that's why I stepped in. That's why I'd have to step in, because I know you would not stop, Sean. And I just want to give the opportunity here to Art. I know you guys are going to be a Black Hat. You can meet with people, network. So how are you going to do that? How can people get in touch with you And of course, I invite everybody to do that and to follow the next conversation that Sean and Art are going to have a blackout, and I'm going to be the one with the camera and recording that. So I'll be there, right, but not in the shot. So how can people get in touch with you and network there?
Yeah, LinkedIn is probably the best. I'm always active on LinkedIn. Certainly, hit me up on LinkedIn, direct message, whatever works, and would love to talk.
Very cool. We'll be sure to put this in the notes here, and with the website and everything that people need to know about what you do.
Mm-hmm.
Sean, final word. No questions.
Yep.
Just
no questions. Well, no. I think what I'm excited for is some use cases and some stories of how some of these challenges that you saw and you built for are actually overcome for some of your customers and the ultimate outcomes that they've experienced because they're fortunate enough to find you and the Britive team. So I'm looking forward to that this week and excited to share that with everybody. And yeah, definitely connect with Art on LinkedIn. Find him around the Mandalay Bay and have a chat with him. And if you need help finding him, you can find me, and I'll put you in contact for sure. But love what you're doing, Art, and thrilled to have you on. And excited to see you this week and continue the Britive story.
Absolutely. Thank you, Sean, Marco. Thank you.
It's a pleasure. And everybody else, stay tuned for more conversation. Definitely watch the upcoming one if you haven't. And if you have, and this is the second one that you see with Art, good. We want you to read and listen and view all the stories we share with Britive. So take care.
Britive.com. Britive.com. There we go. See you all there.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Sean and Marco's On Location event coverage conversations. Please take a moment to give the show a good rating and leave a comment. Remember to share this podcast with your friends, family, and colleagues. Come back for more conversations and follow Sean Martin and Marco Ciappelli as they continue their journey toward redefining cybersecurity and society.